I am wondering or wanting guidance on, you talk about not feathering a child's nest. And my husband and I talk about that a lot because, we're trying to figure out how to handle things. And I realized today that we do come from an action-oriented point of view, like how should we handle this, opposed to maybe lining up our energy. But we struggle with not feathering his nest, but then not being too harsh, and I end up waffling.
Well, here, we can make this very simple and easy for you. When we say we are not keen on feathering someone's nest, here's what we literally mean by that. Well, here's what we don't mean. We don't mean give your child a hard life so that your child figures out how to compensate for a hard life. We don't mean that at all. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would provide the same lifestyle for our child that we had learned to achieve for ourselves. In other words, we wouldn't get your child to start over or even try to replicate your own childhood, because this this energy came forth into the expectation of what you now are. And so we would just proceed with our life as usual. By not feathering the nest, what we mean is we would not see ourselves as the compensator or the fixer of everything about this child's life. We would see the child as the creator of his own experience. And as the child relates to your experience, then certainly there is creation that you will want to offer. You want to offer a roof, and you want to offer a lifestyle, and you want to offer food, and you want to offer an example of a joyous life experience. But you don't want to get into the middle of everything that the child is creating and try to make their creation your creation. That's really what we are meaning about that. And if you don't lose sight of what's most important, in other words, here's the orientation that is most important. Your dominant intention with your child is to remind the child that you have remembered. And we used those words very specifically because the child has not yet forgotten this. So if you remind yourself and then remind the child that you have now remembered that the most important thing is joy. In other words, that's the symbol of a successful life that you are reaching for. Then you'll never get out of balance with this child.
Well, and part of joy is comfort, and I guess I'm comfortable when I'm joyful. And I think that's where I really struggle, is seeing that maybe he's uncomfortable, but for me to make him comfortable makes me uncomfortable. Do you want me to give you an example?
Yes.
He is over a year now, and he used to sleep through the night, and now he's waking up, and I have started co-sleeping with him because I thought it would be easier when he started waking up to nurse him back to sleep. Well, now I feel like there's a dependency, and there's a part of me that wants to say he can figure out how to get himself back to sleep and rely on himself.
All right, now here's how you know the distinction. When you decide to be selfishly oriented, which you naturally are and which we really encourage, and you encourage your child to be the same, but when it reaches the place where his comfort becomes a sacrifice of your comfort, now things are out of balance. And as you teach him that you're willing to sacrifice your comfort in order to provide his, that's what we mean. In fact, that's the quintessential meaning, what we mean when we say feather the nest. And so it may very well reach the place. In other words, the path of least resistance for you for a while was to just bring him to bed with you. And that seemed like the logical thing to do, and therefore it was the logical thing to do. But now, as he gets older, and as you realize that your own sleep patterns are being disrupted, now this contrasting experience is making you desire something different. So now where your struggle comes in is you're literally asking, well, whose desire should I satisfy? My desire or his desire? And the answer is always your desire. And this is when you say, I'm going to satisfy my desire, and you must find a way to satisfy your desire. That makes it clear, doesn't it?
Yes.
In other words, there's no risk for your child. In other words, you're not depriving your child of anything your child needs. And so now you are selfishly doing what is best for you, and that is the best thing that you can teach the child. You say, no, this is what I am now wanting, and this is what I'm going to achieve. Now you can be joyful about that, or you can be happy about that, but I am now not going to modify my behavior in order to adjust the way you feel about it.
So am I not sending that clear message to him, do you think?
Well, we think that you are, and so your question is, why can I not send it energetically, and my child who supposedly is tuned in, tapped in, turned on will get it? But here's the thing. Habits develop very quickly, and so you're right. Your child does prefer to sleep with you. In other words, that really is your child's preference. But it's not a big enough preference that it will ruin his world if he doesn't get that. And he will discover that he likes the independence of his own room in time. In other words, there will be a time, and not so far from now, that you couldn't get him to go to bed with you if you wanted to. In other words, there will be a time, and not so far from now, that you can't get him to come up into your lap and cuddle in the way that is sometimes satisfying to you, because he has no more need for that, you see. And so there are two rules of thumb. The most significant thing is you must be selfishly oriented. And it's possible for you to be selfishly oriented and care about someone else at the same time. But you can't let what they want matter more to you than what you want, or you're going to get out of balance. And then that's where you start sacrificing, which then lays the groundwork for resistance and resentment. And then you find yourself in an adult relationship, like so many adults who have parents, and parents who have adult children, and none of them even like each other, because their relationship is based on sacrifice and resentment instead of upon balance and alignment and self-sufficiency. Someone who really wants to help really enjoys a needy friend. It's sort of a nice balance. I like to help and you like to be helped, and so we get along really good together. But most of you have to acknowledge that the people who make your heart sing the most are those independent, self-sufficient beings who aren't dependent upon you for their joy.
Absolutely.
In other words, when someone says to you, you need to do something so that I can feel better, if there's only one of them, you might take them in as a friend, but you get a handful of them and you've got a burdensome crowd hanging around you. You see.